Hello and welcome to the vlog. Believe it or not, although this is canal boating and it's all about bumbling around aimlessly as I see fit, I am on something of a schedule. I've got some stuff to do over the summer for which I will want the boat to be back at base, me to have access to a car, yada yada yada. Not boaty things, just stuff, you know. So I'm on a bit of a schedule and that means no time to hang around. So even though I only got here yesterday afternoon, I'm straight out of Compton today and heading off, not quite sure where. There are various points I could stop at. I think it'll be a case of when I get fed up and when I find a nice spot, I will stop. You wouldn't think it, but there's a sprawling mass of suburbs behind those trees. Speaking of trees, I rather like the way this one's pulled the ground up like a pancake to let us peek below it. My first lock of the morning is at Whitwick. I like this overflow design, not just functional but pretty. And out under the bridge at the end of the lock. I've still got that wretched sleeping bag to dispose of that got caught round the prop in the last vlog. Under Dimmingsdale Bridge, and there's a private arm on the left. With moorings, it looks very civilised. And there's a nice old working boat. The helpful people about to come up at this lock kindly waited for me to go in before they emptied it. That is good canal etiquette, and they have my thanks. And I had a good chat with the bloke on this boat, an unusual design with the galley up front at the bow. I really liked it. There are 31 locks between Ortherley and Stourport, and by and large they're fairly evenly distributed along the length. There's no great long flights of locks. It's lock, then a bit of canal, then a lock, then a bit of canal, and so on. That said, the next locks we come to at the Bratch is a staircase of 3. A staircase being where the outpouring of one lock goes directly into the next, so you have to set them all correctly before you go up or down. And for that reason, there should be lock keepers on duty to do it for you. This is just a general pretty countryside view showing you what I was going past. And here's a row of anglers with the longest rods I think I've yet seen on the canals. They didn't seem to mind moving them, not that they have much option. Arriving at the Bratch top lock, and the lock landing, with the bollards, stretches all the way up to the lock. It is curved, so I stopped a boat length back to give the one coming out a bit of space. Unfortunately, the boat somehow came out angled in towards the towpath rather than straight, so when it cleared the lock and the tiller was turned, you can see where this is going, it was too far over to make it, and there was no time for me to untie my boat and pull it back further. The oncoming boat tried to turn, but there was no space left, so this happened. Rubbing salt in the wound, the chap at the back leaned over and said, "That's what happens if you moor too close," even though I'm legitimately on the lock landing, and I'm not the one who's moving for that matter. Thankfully, no apparent damage to my boat other than some blacking scraped off the side. The locky's set to work with the staircase, and it turns out these locks do have side pounds rather than empty directly into each other, but there is a tiny mini pound between each one, which you can see here. That's the front gate of the previous lock and the back gate of the one I'm in, with just yards between them. An unusual arrangement. Thankfully, I got rid of that sleeping bag at the rubbish point here. Spotted this very shiny MGB as I descended. I fancy one of those. On past so-called civilization. This is Wombourne, and of course I can't help but video a passing cat on the prowl. Donkeys are always a favourite too. I love donkeys. Filmed here while waiting for a lock to come free. And this lock is a proper staircase, just of 2 chambers. You feel immensely tiny in these things. 2 more locks until I get to the tiny village of Swindon, not to be confused with the sprawling metropolis of Swindon near Reading, which is a different Swindon. So 2 locks, and then I'm told it should be okay to moor up down there. And so it proved to be, a quiet and popular spot below Swindon Bridge, opposite some houses, where I called it a day. Up with the lark next morning, and past an unusual boat and butty combination. Normally, butties are towed behind a powered boat, but here it's pushed, held in front by its V shape and some straps. Arrived at the first lock just round the corner, a fraction after someone else got there, so I'll have to wait my turn. The Canal and River Trust have clearly been out with their lawnmowers, which is nice, but it's triggered my hay fever, so I'm sneezing a lot. The canal's looking especially lovely in the sun, so here's a quick montage of prettiness. Notice the sandstone walls of the canal once again. Just imagine the work involved in digging this out with pickaxes 250 years ago. There's a water point here where that boat that had got to the lock before me earlier has stopped, so I went past and then, being single-handed, held them up for every subsequent lock. Not deliberately, I'm just slower on my own than they were. Lovely mooring spot, although not too good for solar power with all those trees. This is a private marina on a little arm that runs back off the canal at Ashwood. This annoyed me a lot. A beautifully well-tended large private garden, but look at this note they stuck up on the flower bed. Yes, they bought a house next to a canal, but apparently don't want to see any of those wretched narrowboat things. Oh goodness no. Well, we are perfectly entitled to moor on the towpath side, thank you very much, whether you like it or not. I'm still fuming about that now. Here's a much friendlier set of people, some hirers coming up this lock who I had a chat with. And I felt this burst of colour on the offside warranted a few seconds of footage too. Are you ready to enter the Devil's Den? That's what this 180-degree turn is called. And once you've gone round that, you're heading up to the junction with the Stourbridge Canal. That's another route into Birmingham, through Brierley Hill and Dudley, or Dudley, as the locals would possibly say. I'm carrying on down the Staffs and Worcester, and at Stourport Lock there's a bit of a logjam. Loads of boats in the queue to go down, and some coming up too, including a couple of viewers of the vlog who said hello. As you go through the lock, there's a little toll house to one side, a proper bit of history. I have now cleared Stourport Lock. The next thing I come up to is something that claims to be a tunnel, but at only 25 yards long, I'm not really sure it should hold that distinction. That would be the Dunsley Tunnel. I'll let you enjoy the trip through. Lovely, and round the corner to what would be a superb quiet mooring spot, And if it wasn't for the fact that I've got friends coming to visit me a mile further on in Kinver, I'd have stopped here for sure. As it was, I needed to go through Hyde Lock. Look at the view! That's the other side of a valley you're seeing in the distance. And this is Kinver, with long-term moorings taking up all the towpath, rather frustratingly for visitors like me. But there's also a facilities point, and no one on it, so I stopped to top up the water tank and empty the loo. Then a hunt for a spot on the visitor moorings. It was jammed, but I did get in on a corner and stayed for 2 days. That's it for now. Cheerio.